All right, great. I want to welcome everybody to this evening's event. Thanks everybody for coming. What a wonderful turnout. My name is Commissioner Chris Gomez, a planning commissioner here for the city of White Plains. So good to see again such a wonderful turnout. I recognize a lot of faces, and I don't recognize others, which is always good. We want to get as many people involved in these sorts of initiatives as possible. Before we jump right into what is going to be a brief presentation, about the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, and then get into some, workings around the table with all our fellow neighbors. I do want to introduce a few people. We have Council President Brash here, Councilman Presser, I saw before. There you go. Thank you. And we have Jessica Lars, I know, representing Senator Mayer's office. If I saw, there you go. So again, and I do send my apologies, the mayor is unable to make it this evening, but he's very excited and of course has been intimately involved in sort of the projects you're going to hear about tonight. Let me step back a second, and what brings me a lot of joy here is about 7 years ago when I started with the city, I was in this very room when we kicked off the Transit District Strategic Plan, which was all about kind of visioning the western edge of the city's downtown, basically from this area down to the train station. And as you know, that was a very community-based event, or process, I should say. We had about 15 months of public planning. We sat around a lot of tables like you all have here tonight. And I'm happy to say, after that plan was adopted, we've seen quite a bit of growth, both from the private industry and private sector, a lot of public infrastructure in terms of bike lanes, bike storage, that traffic crossing thing right by the Galleria, the Hawk signal. As well as just a lot of investment from Metro North at the train station, upwards of $100 million, again, all as a result of kind of community grassroots-led planning. So I just wanted to plug that because this is sort of a nice natural progression tonight that, again, we have a tradition here in the city. I'm very pleased. The planning department, obviously the mayor and the council in supporting local planning. So one other commercial before we get into the heart of it here, so to speak, no pun intended. The city's also in the midst of updating its comprehensive plan. It's One White Plains, so I encourage everybody here, I'm sure you're all aware, but if you're not, go to the onewhiteplains.com website, and you can see a lot of the other public sort of outreach initiatives the city's undertaking. And I'd like to say that this exercise this evening is certainly kind of dovetailing nice with that public outreach process. So we've heard a lot of great things in the comp plan process. The hope is to update and adopt that plan by mid-2023, maybe later 2023. But we've already had, again, over a year of significant public outreach. We've heard from many parts of the community. And this evening, again, everything we hear will obviously be rolled up into that process as well. So this evening, we're going to talk about the Heart of White Plains, which is the city's application to New York State for the Downtown Revitalization Initiative grant. It's a $10 million grant that staff will be getting into in a moment, kind of getting into the nitty-gritty. But essentially what it is it's the state really wanting to think about grassroots planning and ways that communities can come together to identify projects for funding, state funding that is, that dovetail again nicely with what we're doing already. So tonight, obviously in the midst of the welcome, we're going to talk a little bit about some of these preliminary projects. We have some materials at each table, and we'll quickly go through kind of some of these items to get some interaction between you all. Then we're going to talk about the grant itself and next steps in terms of application, and then we're going to end with some final thoughts. And if time does permit, obviously, we'd love to hear kind of what you all have come up with throughout this sort of charrette-style process. So tonight, you're here really to contribute, like you always do, to the downtown vision for White Plains. So, we're very fortunate here, as you know, compared to a lot of other communities in the region. The city's got a lot of opportunities, but of course we're doing just fine. So the way I think about it is, how do we think of sort of almost like surgical interventions, right? Things that we want to plan for, things that might be capital intensive, small identifiable projects that the state can help fund. And of course, this process is key in identifying those. I also want to acknowledge Councilman Payne just arrived, so we did give our introductions, but there you go. Thank you. No, I'm going to call out that you're late. I'm joking. Thanks for attending, obviously. So we're also obviously need you to help identify needs and opportunities. So it's important to know that everything you're going to see tonight There's kind of conceptual kind of thinking around each of these initiatives, but obviously we want you to help fill in the gaps about, where would some of these initiatives make the most sense. We talk about bike lanes, we talk about connectivity, talk about open space and the like, particularly in the downtown. And then we have to get feedback on 4 specific projects that are kind of at your table that are going to the grant application. And we'll get into those again as we move forward. So I'm going to turn it over quickly to Deputy Commissioner Mezzi, Judy Mezzi from the Planning Department, to give us a little more color on the grant itself.
Thank you so much, Chris. So I apologize, I was just running around getting more seats out, and that's a wonderful problem to have. It's really nice to have so many people in the room. So the DRI grant, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, is an initiative by New York State, and it, as its name says, it's really to revitalize downtowns. The focus is on job creation, redevelopment, housing, and opportunities. This is round 6 of the DRI initiative, and you can see up there the other winners in previous rounds in our region. So it's a very, very competitive grant. One of the things that we keep talking about is sort of managing expectations, because we're going to talk about a lot of big ideas, and we really do want to dream big tonight and really think about how we can strengthen our already vibrant downtown. But it's a long shot, so we just want to keep that in mind as well. We don't want to make promises here. As Commissioner Gomez said, this is not our first go-round at getting input. Many of the ideas that are being put forth tonight came right out of the transit district. So if people participated in that and wondered what happened with that information, that report is very much alive. We look at it, and some of the ideas that we're discussing tonight comes out of that. We also, as the Commissioner said, are in the middle of our comprehensive plan process, and we had listening tours all around White Plains. I saw many of you there, and we also have a website, again, a shameless plug, onewhiteplains.com. Please go online, and we hear so many wonderful ideas, and this is really our way of capturing them all so that we can use them in the plan. We submitted a letter of intent to the state that we were going to apply for this grant. And we were out at the farmer's market on 2 really lovely, we really got lucky with the weather, 2 wonderful Wednesdays. And we have a website that you can see up there as well. On that website, we had 3 different surveys: bike lanes and parking, open streets and car-free zones, and public art. The results of those surveys, we try to be very transparent with what we do, the results of those surveys are up on boards around the room. So you'll note that that this grant covers a lot, and tonight we're going to be talking about some of it, and we're really going to ask you to dig into 4 different projects. But this night is just one piece of all of your opportunity to participate with this grant and with the comprehensive plan. So please don't feel like this is your only opportunity. This is the strategy area, which if you work in the planning department, you do a lot of grant speak. So this is the strategy area. This is our area of focus. And you can see here that it's 256 acres. And I imagine that many of you are very, very familiar with this area as well. And this is the vision statement that we came up with based on our conversations with people during the transit district, during the comprehensive plan outreach, and the preliminary outreach that we've done for this grant. And later we're going to loop back to this because we're going to ask your input on this vision statement. I'm going to turn it over now to Katie Crawford. Katie is a planner with the department, and she is also the creator of all these fabulous visuals that you're looking at.
Thanks, Judy. All right, so we have identified 3 downtown revitalization strategies that we want to include in this grant. So the first is to improve connectivity to and from our neighborhoods, specifically Battle Hill and Ferris Avenue. We also want to strengthen the community's identity. This is something that came up in basically every single public outreach opportunity that we had. We really want to build on what we have right now. And number 3 is to enhance public spaces. This is another thing that we heard a lot, and so we'll start to get through some more of the project ideas. So the first is to improve access from Battle Hill to downtown. This is actually a recommendation from the strategic plan, like I know that was mentioned. So we figured that this is one of the projects that will definitely have to be kind of controlled by a traffic engineer. So we just decided to kind of gloss through this one. The next would be to expand bike lanes and available parking to encourage non-motorized modes of transportation. We would do this by painting bike lanes, providing additional bike parking, and expanding the network of bike lanes. Another recommendation of the transit district was to improve the circulation in front of the train station. And there's the little schematic from the plan. The next would be to formalize the trailhead from the Bronx River Parkway, right where it meets Main Street. So this is sort of an inspirational idea of what that could look like. Next, this is probably the most repeated request, is to repair the clock at the train station. We think this would be a perfect opportunity for this grant and would have a huge impact. The next would be to create a public art and placemaking fund. This would be some sort of like grant-supported fund that would provide grants to local artists or organizations for things like murals or painted walkways or other sorts of placemaking activities. Next would be painting a mural at the Chester Maple parking garage. If you are walking down Mamaroneck Avenue, there's 2 buildings and a nice walkway. We think that would be a great place to liven it up with some nice art. Another recommendation from the strategic plan is to enliven the underpass under Main Street and at Hamilton Avenue. So there are some sort of inspiration ideas. Next would be a marketing and branding strategy. We would really want to implement a strategy that really builds on our community identity and attracts additional investment to the city. Next would be wayfinding signage. We have a little bit of this going on downtown already, but we would hope to have a more complete package that covers all of our key areas like our malls, our transit center, things like that. Next is the idea of having open streets. So, for example, we do Court Street once a week where we close it down to traffic. Maybe we would want to formalize that space. It's sort of unknown. We definitely need more community feedback on that. Next would be to take municipal buildings and turn them into, or to put green roofs on like the tops of garages or the top of City Hall or all of the facilities that we currently have. The next idea would be to include broadband in our municipal parks. The next idea is to expand our urban tree canopy. And lastly, to launch a small business innovation hub. If you guys have any questions on these, we can definitely talk through them. Other than that, I think it's time for Chris to go over the vision statement.
Okay, thank you, Katie. So I know that was quick. There's going to be a test at the end on each of those Katie went through. But no, really what that was is kind of whet everybody's appetite here in the sense that these are very broad visions, right? And a lot of those that we talked about will come up in your discussions, clearly at your tables this evening. But what we're going to do now, and basically over the last hour, 20 minutes or so of this evening, is to focus, as I said, on 4 specific projects, not the ones Katie went through, and then talk about the vision statement. So the goal, again, is to hear from you on these 4 specific projects, but time permitting, the hope is that a lot of what you saw here previously, and Katie went through these wonderful concepts, can kind of filter into your thinking, whether it's the urban tree canopy. Obviously, we hear a lot about bikes and pedestrian connectivity, but there are 4 distinct projects, as I said, we'll get into. The first thing, though, right, we're always, when we're planning, we're looking at grassroots planning efforts, it's always about the vision statement. It's always about not, getting out there and leading these initiatives or these plans with what I think or what the rest of the planning department necessarily thinks should be the vision for the city, but we're here to support the community's vision. So the vision statement that is required by the grant, which you all have at your table, I believe, correct?
Yes.
And we could pull it up again if need be, is really something that both the grant and frankly us, as the city, we want to hear your feedback on. So the thought is really, the theme of the application to the state is this vision statement. it clearly, this is right from the grant, needs to give clear direction for the projects included, right? So the 4 projects we're focusing on are very important this evening, but everything you saw from Katie would be included in this application in terms of kind of concepts as we flush out the full application. And then, does it capture the community's goals for the future heart of White Plains? As we've said, we've heard significant feedback already at the farmers market and online. But I think, right now the goal is to get 5 to 10 minutes, everybody at your table, meet each other, shake each other's hands, and talk through the vision and how you might or might not edit the vision for the purposes of this evening.
And if you're wondering what Commissioner Gomez is talking about in terms of the vision statement, you each have a piece of paper on your table that looks like this, that says vision statement on it. That's what and this is what we want you to focus on. And right underneath it are some words that when we brought this vision statement out into the community, people said, but no, what about pet friendly? What about clean? So those are some other words that we heard at the farmers market and online since this vision statement was created. And your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to create your mission statement, either tweaking what we have or coming up with your own. So, here we go.
I wish I could whistle to get everybody's attention. But I love the, having gone around the room and seeing the robust discussion, we're really happy everybody's so engaged. So that was kind of the first exercise of the evening. Get your feet wet, get to meet your neighbors at your table. We're going to move on to the next, again, element of the 4 in terms of projects here. We want your feedback. And this one is something I've heard about since I started with the city 7 years ago, ad nauseum. It's something that the city used to have. You're going to have to guess now, right? This is a lot of, I'm setting this up. It's a neighborhood trolley system. We've heard this a lot throughout the comprehensive planning process. Frankly, we heard it a lot during the transit district strategic planning process. And there's a lot to unpack here, and we certainly want to hear from each table. But just the one thing I'm going to start with here is we've heard everything from a downtown circulator, right? Something that kind of gets people around the downtown, more for economic development purposes, so folks can leave their car behind and get around the city. Some neighboring communities have done that recently with some state and federal funding. They've actually run it free, but we're also cognizant that something like that is a long-term investment once it gets running to keep it operating. But we've also heard about what the city used to have before my time at some point. I see a lot of folks shaking their heads. Was a neighborhood kind of trolley system in the sense that maybe the close-in neighborhoods, the areas closest to the downtown, would have some level of circulator to get folks into the downtown. I know it's challenging. I know it's fiscally challenging, having worked in other communities that have tried it. But that is not what we're here to talk about tonight. We're here to talk about visioning and be aspirational. So the thought here is you all have a kind of a map and some information for this element is to really talk among yourselves. Do you think this is a good idea? If so, where would you like to see it? For economic development, is it to connect neighborhoods? Think about where you live in the community. Think about the types of things that would help you perhaps connect to the downtown, or even frankly some of the existing Beeline bus network that runs on our major north-south corridors, Mamaroneck Avenue, North Street, etc. So again, just about 5 to 10 minutes kind of sussing this one out, and I know people have very strong opinions, so we'll wander around and So there is a map that's in the center of your table. This is something that's near and dear to my heart, working with the city and the Urban Renewal Agency. This is the old, for anybody that remembers, the old Grove Street right-of-way, which was intended to go under the train tracks and connect to the Bronx River Parkway. So the city, I should say the Urban Renewal Agency, currently owns the right-of-ways, which are those paved areas and one's a grass area, on either side of the Pepe Auto Dealership. So that's something that's always been over the Urban Renewal Agency. Again, the idea being there would ultimately be a need to get folks out of the city during kind of the superhighway era of urban renewal. Importantly, that plan that was put in place in the 60s and the 70s really had a vision of a lot of downtown office space, about 15 million square feet, 10 to 15 million office space downtown, thereby necessitating another way out of the city for automobiles. People come in, commuting to the city to work in these offices, leaving at night, and not just having to go to Main Street in Hamilton. We've since seen not only that not come to fruition, but we've also seen a push to more downtown living, as you all are aware. And so people either walking to the train, walking to their jobs in White Plains downtown, or if they're commuting outbound against traffic. So all that planning jargon aside, the thought was if you go to the east side of Pepe, there's actually a green space there that people are using that connect Hillside Ferris and go up to Ferris Avenue. And there are desire lines there, meaning people are using it. And so we've thought for a long time, and something we've talked about, that we should formalize it as a city. Perhaps, these are examples of things we could do. We want to hear from all of you this evening, specifically about how that trailway could be enhanced. Lighting, whatever you think, exercise, whatever you guys want to see there. But we really think we're bullish on being able to create that connection. And I can come around and talk to where it is. If you're not
Yes, could you please?
Yeah, we have fortune. All right, so
Yeah, where is Pepe?
all right, so we look at maps all the time. We should put it up on the slide.
Yes.
So everybody's got this. So this triangle in the middle is the Pepe Auto Dealership right here. This building right in the middle. On the left side of it, you'll see a big stripped area which is all pavement. And on the right side of it, which is the east, you'll see a bunch of green grass that's going from the northwest to the southeast. So that would be the area we're talking about. Part of our downtown, right? So we definitely have some ideas for areas in the downtown that could accommodate such a use, but we definitely want to hear from all of you. We have a sheet here. Where would you like to see it in the downtown? What sort of amenities would you want? How should it be programmed? And the like. So this is an example of kind of what's been done in other cities where it can be both for youth and it could be associated with open space and parklands. But where would we like to see that? I know we love our senior center now, but we do hear from a lot of folks that maybe we could have better.
So if you look at the map in front of you, we already have the existing parks that... If you look at the map in front of you, there are the existing parks that the city has.
Into the mic, please.
The mic is not working right now.
Okay, then.
And there are also some publicly accessible open spaces highlighted. So I guess go through your map, and if you see any opportunities to add more pocket parks, or if you have any ideas for what pocket parks might include, go ahead and jot those down on the side.
If further feedback and project ideas are always welcome at One Way Plains for a comprehensive plan, onewayplains.com. onewayplains.com/DRI22 is how you find this website, but anywhere you write information down is fine. Katie can find it. Later this fall, the awards are announced on a rolling basis, and I think I mentioned it's very competitive, so fingers crossed. And if we do get it, then it would start in January 2023, and it starts with a 6-month planning period. Okay. And that means there would be a whole lot more input that we would be wanting from you all, so your job is not over yet. In your little bags, you have a couple of stickies. what I'd like everybody to do is just take out those stickies and think about something that you'd like to say about this evening, either something about an idea that you came up with, or about the grant itself, or about the people you met. And on your way out the door, whenever you are ready to walk out the door, there's a blue poster in the back that says Heart of White Plains. Just put your sticky on that. That will be our sort of wrap-up collective summary of what all you really wanted to tell us. So I'm just going to do a quick check right now. Chris, do you want to have your closing comment? Yeah, 5 minutes, Chris.
No.
All right.
Oh, no, I'll just say something. No.
It doesn't work. I don't know.
Oh,
why
it doesn't
you
work.
didn't.
All right, so just before we wrap up, this one?
No, behind.
Good, Ray? All right, so just before we wrap up, again, I want to thank everybody for coming. I'm available here, so I know we had some robust discussions, as I said, about some of these issues. I'm here if you have any questions, comments, but as Judy said, we really want to hear from you and leave all your comments. And definitely, please stay abreast of all information. If you go to the onewhiteplains.com website, you can sign up for updates, so there will be a lot more public opportunities around these issues. And again, as we continue the city to adopt the One White Plains comprehensive plan. So again, thanks everybody for being here. And this is just the first of many, again, continued public outreach meetings. So thank you.
Very good.
Yeah.